And good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Knapp
And I'm Lee Barrows.
and want to welcome everybody to the Live and Local Real Talk Thursday edition.
Thursday edition, one
Mhm.
day closer to
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah.
I'm
So,
excited.
yeah, a little chilly this morning,
Yeah, I'll
but
wait till tomorrow.
yeah,
You
tomorrow
think it's
morning's going to be
cold
real
today?
chilly. I know.
Well, it's chilly today, but
Hmm.
tomorrow's going to be like, what, a 20-degree drop or
It
something?
is, yes.
We have some freeze warnings along the coast,
We do.
some other inland
Hmm.
counties. So you better get your spray out for your
I
windshield.
got to find out where I put it. I put it somewhere and I can't remember where I put it.
Mine's in the garage, and I
I
just
know.
have to transfer it from the garage to the
Mhm.
truck.
I think I know where I put it, but I got to check that spot. Yeah.
And we're referring to defrosting your windshield in the morning because
Yeah.
it just seems like even though it only takes a couple minutes once you get the
Mhm.
car running and warm, it just seems like forever.
Yeah.
And you end up.
Especially when you're in the dark and
And
yeah.
do you defrost all your windshield or just enough to see out of
I do
it?
the whole thing.
Yes, it's
Front and
important.
back.
It's important,
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to do this one little spot. You can't see.
right?
I think that might even be illegal, but I'm not
Well, you see
positive.
a lot of people that you can tell they're just leaving the house for work or whatever, and they have like a square defrosted.
But you can't see, and there's too many like kids out going to school, people walking their
Absolutely.
pets or whatever. But I would swear I read something one time today in North Carolina. You can't just have one little section because you're blinded. Basically, you have blind spots. But I might be wrong. So if anybody's listening, law
Right.
enforcement wise, that knows, am I telling the truth or is that just something I made up in my head? Could
Well,
very
to
well
me,
be.
it would be obstruction.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's obstructing your view. So if you get in an accident and you hit something, guess what? You better hope it melts real quick.
That's what the reason why I'm saying that, because I don't know if you remember, maybe 10 years ago, maybe it wasn't that long, I think so. That kid here in Jacksonville was hit at the bus stop and it was real
Yes.
foggy that day.
Yes.
But it was also the person's window was not, it was icy and
That's right.
whatever.
I
They only
remember
had a
that.
small
Yes.
square filled out. And I want to say then they said you have to have your whole window
Right.
defrosted. I might be wrong, but I heard that
No, I
somewhere.
believe you're right.
Yeah.
Most definitely right.
So, well,
So, got a
you
lot
know,
of news from
we've got a
yesterday.
lot of news. The Republicans
Took the House,
took the
took the
House.
U.S. House.
Hmm.
They got the 218. So
Yeah.
things are going to change there. They haven't held the House since 2018. So I know they're partying right now. And Nancy Pelosi is supposed to be making a statement today
Oh,
to
really?
her future plans. So I would almost expect to see her retire. And because, she needs to go home and take care of her husband.
Well, if she doesn't, I'm really going to be surprised.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's time for her to put family 1st
Mhm.
and go back to California.
Yeah.
So we'll see
I
what
mean, I
happens
guess we'll
there.
find out what she's going to say. I do know that, um, you know, President Biden wants her to stay on it, at least finish out her term. But now she's like, and I hate to use the word a nobody, but she's lost her power, so to speak. She's
Right.
so, I mean, she's just going to be just another, person in Congress. She doesn't have that, top authority anymore.
And then she's got to deal with Trump now
Yeah.
for the next couple of years when his bid to run for to be elected again is
Mhm.
number 47. And so, and we all know that she hates Trump with a passion.
Yeah,
so
she does.
I
Yeah.
really expect her to be making an announcement that this will probably be her last year. Maybe she'll leave early. I don't know.
When is her term up?
I think she's got another year. I think she runs again next year. I have to look it up.
I thought she ran in 2020.
Yeah, but those terms are only 2 years. Let me look it up to verify. We talked about this one morning.
We did,
and
and I
we looked
and I
it
don't
up.
even remember what we said outside of that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious.
Yes.
So, wow. Okay. What else is? Oh, I didn't know LA has a new mayor. Huh.
Okay, let me see.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Hmm.
I don't know what that means, but well.
All right, she announced her candidacy for re-election to the House in 2022. In 2018 and 2020, she agreed not to stay on as Speaker beyond January 2023, but since then she avoided the questions about her future. So,
well, I guess that was when she thought that they were going to retain control.
That's
I would
right.
assume.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, but in January of 2022, she announced that she's going to run for one more term. And I do believe her term would be up. I think she's on the odd year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'll check it
See,
out.
that'll
Make
make
sure.
her next
Right.
year.
Right, because they all don't run at the same time.
Right. No, they stagger it.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
yes. Well, I think it's time for Nancy to go home. I really do. Because she obviously has a husband that has needs, so needs to be taken care of with all he's gone through too. So
this is looking to be that Kevin McCarthy is going to looks like he may be the House Speaker.
that's right. Yes. Well, he was nominated, and so he's got to get the 218 votes, and that right there, I don't really understand too much why you have to have every vote, but been reading.
Well,
up
I guess
on that
because, yeah, I don't know. What happens if you don't?
Well, that's what I've been reading up on, trying to figure out. I keep
So
researching.
you just have a nobody person?
Right? No,
Like,
you would have somebody.
that's interesting.
We'll look it up and find out.
Well, didn't we also read that you don't have to be a House member? Rayford brought that up. You do not have to be a House member to be the Speaker.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Rayford's the one that told me that, because I argued that with him at first, and then I was like, "What?" Yeah, I'm almost positive.
Okay, it says that with Republicans taking control of the U.S. House, the party has begun the process of choosing who will wield the Speaker's gavel. McCarthy on Tuesday won the party's nomination to become the next House Speaker, but the real test will be in January when new members take office and hold the deciding vote. And here's what you need to know. To be the next Speaker, a person needs a majority of the votes from the House members who are present and voting. While the magic number is 218 out of the 435, that's where the 218 comes in. A person could become Speaker with fewer votes if several members do not attend the vote. That happened in 2021 when Pelosi won with just 216 votes after 3 members voted present.
Well, you do not have to be elected member of the House. This is so bizarre to me. I'm reading this.
Yes, I am too.
All candidates for Speaker must be nominated by members of the House, but they don't need to be elected lawmakers of the House. Because Rayford had brought up the scenario that Donald Trump would be nominated.
Sure did. That's right.
And I was like, "What are you talking about? He's not a member of the House." And then he's like, "You don't have to be." I'm like, "Who made this rule?"
Non-House members who have received votes to become Speaker in the past years include then former Vice President Joe Biden. I remember that now. Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and Senator Paul Rand.
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Here I'm reading ahead of my brain again. In modern speaker elections, a person who wins the gavel is usually already in their party's leadership ranks.
Yeah.
This is one reason California Republican Kevin McCarthy, the current GOP majority leader, is the frontrunner to replace House Speaker Pelosi.
I mean, to me, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I would think the Speaker needs to be someone that's actually elected.
Well, I mean, yes, I would think so too.
It's so weird to me that you don't have to be an elected member to be. I just don't understand it. I'd like to know, has that always been a thing? Were the rules changed at some point?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the backing of the Freedom Caucus too. And unless you have their backing, it's really hard to do much of anything.
I don't even know what that is.
McCarthy previously made a run for Speaker in 2015 when the White House Speaker John Boehner resigned after an internal party battle.
I remember that.
And we have more right-wing members of the chamber, including the Freedom Caucus. Once again, the Freedom Caucus.
What is the Freedom Caucus?
The Freedom Caucus is, let me bring that up for you because I can tell you, but I cannot tell you like it should be told. All right. Also known as the House Freedom Caucus, is a congressional caucus consisting of conservative Republican members of the United States House. So, let me see what they do.
Okay.
Yes. I tell you, you delve into this and you have to go further and further and
It's
further.
like too much.
Yeah,
For me, it's just too
it's
makes my head
considered to
hurt.
be the
Like,
most
yeah.
conservative and farthest right bloc within the House Republican Conference. So, uh, it just really gets it. North Carolina State, our North Carolina government or General Assembly, they have a Freedom Caucus too. So it's a group of individuals that they're just. I don't know. I'm gonna do some more research on it so I can tell you exactly. The caucus originated during the mid-January 2015 Republican congressional retreat. According to founding members, that was the first time we got together and decided we were a group and not just a bunch of mad guys. I'll just say mad guys. So it's just a group that they have separate from the Republican Study Committee and apart from the House itself. And they just hold a lot of power.
Mhm.
If you're not in with the caucus, well, you want to be liked by the caucus to get anywhere. So we'll have to wait and see. It's really kind of strange. It's just so involved. I mean, it's not really that hard once you figure it out, but just trying to put it out there right is something else. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
Oh, wow.
But other news yesterday coming out of California, this was really crazy. More than 20 police recruits injured after a driver plows into the group on their morning
Yep.
run. They were out there running along the road, it was early morning, and a driver going the wrong way plowed into him. They said the driver was doing about 40 miles an hour when he hit this group of individuals. There were some that were critically injured. There's some that have loss of limb, and there's some that have injuries that were not as critical, but they had to close down the highway, calling ambulances from everywhere. It was just, I mean, how tragic is that? Who would have thought, out for a
Yeah.
morning run?
Yeah.
And these are police trainees, in the academy. So I know they have the driver in custody, and they said more than 10 ambulances were called out to the scene. So what a mess that was. And they were showing some of it on the news last night, but they would stop the film right before the car actually hit the recruits. I couldn't watch it. I mean, like, why
Yeah,
would
no,
you
I'm not
even go
watching
that
that.
far
Yeah.
with it?
Yeah. No.
But we know how the news is.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Any-
Yikes.
anyway, happening around locally, it seems like everything's been pretty quiet around Jacksonville lately.
Well,
I don't want to jinx it though. Tomorrow night's football game, 3rd
Mhm.
round of the state championship playoffs. We also Jacksonville soccer is doing a fantastic job
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So kudos out to the Jacksonville soccer team for what they're doing.
Is it the girls or the boys?
It's a boys soccer
Okay, the
team.
boys playing in
Yes.
fall. Okay.
As far as I know, they're all boys. Hey, this day and age.
Well, I didn't know who's on the the boys and girls do not play
Right.
in the same season.
Right.
So one plays fall, one plays spring.
Right.
So that's why I wasn't sure which one was it the boys team or the girls team that was playing in the fall.
And they have identified
I thought
the
it was
driver.
the girls.
No, this is the boys.
Is it the
team.
boys? Okay.
They have identified the driver of the vehicle in Pitt County. A big police chase over the weekend that was
With the throwing hammers?
throwing hammers at the cops.
But they haven't found him, if I remember correctly.
No, they have not
Okay.
found
they know
him yet,
who it
but they
is.
know who he
Okay.
is. So they've
Yeah.
identified him. So it's only a matter of time. We were talking about that story yesterday. Throwing hammers out the car at the cops as they're chasing you.
Mhm.
That was just really bizarre.
Interesting.
Oh, and I do have to tell everybody.
Okay.
And here's a PSA. So yesterday, I get a phone call from an area, local cell phone number, 910330. So I
Mhm.
thought, okay, this is local, somebody calling me. And I get a recorded message that says, you have exactly 30 minutes to
Mhm.
pay your electric bill or your electricity will be shut off. And I'm like, I'm laughing.
Mhm.
So, I didn't follow the prompts. I should have followed the prompts to see where it would take me, but I just didn't want to deal with it. But I called a number back, and every time I call the number back, it says that that person's unavailable. So
Yeah.
watch out for the new scam going
Mhm.
around. People calling you, telling you need to pay your light bill because I'm sure it would have prompted you to pick one or two and then put in your bank card number or whatever. So another scam, just another
Well,
one.
there's been quite a few of those, and I got a scam call last week while I was at work, but it came to my cell phone. It was very hilarious because um, I knew it was a scam, but it came from Buncombe County. That's the number that popped up
Ah,
on my caller ID. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have a colleague that works up there, but I was like, oh, told myself I know this isn't legit. And sure enough, talking about that I had not shown up to court,
oh gosh.
um, and that I had skipped out on a subpoena, and I just let them keep talking. Okay, and this went on for like a minute or two, and I'm like, well, they're like, well, due to your professional capacity, you didn't show up for an April court date. Okay,
Yeah,
and I
okay,
said, well,
sure.
first of all, I live on the coast. I'm like 7 hours away from Buncombe County. I don't do cases there. Two, um, I would never not show up for court ever. And three, you would think they would be have contacted me. You know what I mean? Like how dumb do they
Absolutely.
think people are?
Absolutely.
And the minute I asked for I said, well, what's the subpoena number, your citation number? I said for the miss subpoena, and I asked for that, and I said, and my husband is retired law enforcement. Click.
Yes.
I knew it.
Mm,
Yeah,
of
it's
course.
hilarious.
Well, we'll have to after we do weather and we come back, we'll
Mhm.
have to talk about this Onslow County man that lives in Hubert who invested like $50,000 into a solar power system for his home, and the company filed bankruptcy, and he's out $50,000 now with no answers on what to do.
4 or 5 people on my street have done that. Have gotten solar, and I don't know who they got them from. I'm just
Right,
making a
right.
statement. Like,
This is a company based in North Carolina called Power Home Solar,
huh.
also operated by the name Pink Energy. Closed its doors, and of course, Generac, the company that provides this, is saying, well, the reason that well, this company claims that they got bad parts, and it caused them a lot of issues and money with customers and stuff. And of course, Generac, the company that makes the parts, has said no, it was more than likely because it wasn't installed right. So
Mhm.
this gentleman's out $50,000.
See? Yikes.
You know,
Yep.
sad.
I feel bad for him. I really do. But
And
yeah,
he's having to make payments on that $50,000 for nothing because his solar panels don't work. He took out a loan for $50,000 to have these things installed, to
and at
buy them
this
and have it
point, who you
installed.
gonna sue?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, no.
Yep, paying
That's why
for
you need to
nothing.
know who you're dealing with.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. We're live and local Real Talk on Freedom 97.1, 1120 AM WSME. We'll be right back. Right, we are back and ready to do some weather.
We sure are. And the marine forecast is brought to you by Tideline Marine. Tideline has some great sales going on through the end of this month. All gift shop lamps are 50% off, and other gift shop items are 20% off. Some other specials this month include a $10 gift card with any tackle package over $50. Need a new reel? Be sure to enter into the Florida Fishing Reel giveaway. How about $2,000 off an Aqua Sport 2100 center console? To see all the specials going on this month, stop by Tideline Marine, 159 Old Bridge Street on the banks of the New River. We have a small craft advisory in effect until noon today. Today, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots with gusts up to 30 knots, diminishing 10 to 15 knots late, seas 3 to 5 feet, dominant period 5 seconds. Tonight, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, dominant period 5 seconds. Friday, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, diminishing 5 to 10 knots in the afternoon, seas 2 to 3 feet, dominant period 5 seconds. Friday night, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. And Saturday, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, adjacent sounds and rivers with a light chop.
Today, mostly cloudy, then becoming sunny. Well, that's weird. With gusts as high as 15 miles an hour and a high of only 51, nippy and chilly and windy. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 29. Guarantee you there'll be frost. Tomorrow, sunny, high of 54, calm winds. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low of 30. So if you're going to the game, dress appropriately, wear gloves, hat, and bring a blanket. Saturday, mostly sunny, high of 57. Saturday night, mostly cloudy, low of 37. And Sunday, mostly sunny, high of 51. Chilly. But by
Yes.
next Wednesday, it's at least going to be like mid 60s.
Of
Well,
course, if
for now,
Thanksgiving
yeah.
is going to be 70s and
Mhm.
your house is going to heat up all day from cooking
Mhm.
that turkey, so you might as well just turn it back to AC,
Yeah.
get it done.
You know, I don't know how many people remember. Well, we have a guest coming on here at 7:30, and
Right.
she is going to talk about some mental health stuff. It's what I think she's talking about. But
Yes.
anyway, the parents of the Oxford school shooter, that Ethan Crumley kid, these are the two parents that were charged as well. If you remember earlier this year, they kind of fled or hid or something, remember, right after
Right.
that. And now they are saying that we never thought our son needed therapy. Now, let me remind everyone that the school even said there's something wrong with this kid. He needs therapy. And the mom is claiming, because it has come out that this kid sent the mom a text saying that he was hallucinating and hearing voices and seeing demons throwing bowls around the house. And he had proof. He's like, I got videos and picture of the demon. It's throwing bowls. I'm not joking. At what point did this woman not think that was a key indication that the kid needed therapy? As a therapist, I'm here to tell you,
Denial.
anytime a child, I don't care what age they are, starts talking about seeing things that no one else can see, you need to have your kid assessed and
Right.
evaluated. Bottom line. Like I mean, and they bought this kid a gun. Now remember, they bought him a gun.
Right.
That gun
Right.
that he used was
Right.
actually his.
That's
And
right.
he's not legally even, it's a handgun to have.
Well, my opinion that we can see this all started at home
Oh,
with the parents
absolutely it
not
did.
being
Yeah.
parents.
Well, I can see, a lot of times I do see kids that come in for therapy. A lot of times at the suggestion of a school, like a guidance counselor or a teacher or someone, or maybe a family member, it says, hey, bring your child in. And the parents are very reluctant to, have their child engage in therapy. I don't know if they feel like they're labeled. Well, no one's going to know your kid's in therapy. But I even
Right.
see a lot of children who clearly have ADHD and need to be on some kind of medication. It's gone are the days where every kid is prescribed like Ritalin or Adderall for
Mhm.
ADHD. There's so many other medicines. There's even like non-narcotic ADHD, non-stimulant ADHD medicines, I should say. There's all kinds. You don't have to put your kid on Adderall, which is that I would use that actually as a last resort. There's too many other ones. But a lot of parents are very reluctant. Or a child that's having major anxiety or even depression, and parents will say, well, I don't want my children on medication. But not everybody that takes depression or anxiety medicine is going to be on there forever.
That's right.
I mean, sometimes it's just a short term. They need to combine that with therapy, and you can solve the problems very quickly. Sometimes it may be a little more long term, but to act like it doesn't exist or not get the person the help, will end up with cases like this. I mean, this is off of, he was hallucinating. He definitely needed an
Well,
assessment.
do you know, speaking of Adderall right now, there's a shortage on it.
I believe that.
There's a shortage, and they said it's a heavily regulated supply chain, a rise in demand for Adderall, and continued labor shortages brought on the pandemic. That's what's causing the shortage.
The problem with Adderall is it is very addicting, and there are a lot of people who abuse Adderall and they sell their Adderall. I mean, it's definitely a drug that's sold on the streets
Right.
a lot of times.
Yes.
It would not be my first choice of medication for someone with ADHD. I mean, there's, like I said, there's way too many other medicines you can try first, but Adderall is very sought after. And for individuals who are put on Adderall, that's either all they can take, the only thing that works for them, I always tell them, do not tell people you're taking out, especially if you're an adult. Don't
Right.
tell people you're taking Adderall, because people will break in your house and steal it.
Right.
Yeah. But there's a lot of other medications for ADHD. We're not just Ritalin and Adderall. Those days are gone.
Yes,
So,
I saw that yesterday about the
Mhm.
shortage, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking, well, I think we put too many kids on it these days anyway.
there's a lot of adults that are on it.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of adults.
Wow.
Yeah. And I see more abuse of Adderall in adults than I do in kids.
And so
Yeah.
you're saying that they're selling it on the streets
Adults
now?
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Phew.
I had a client one time that was on it, and I wasn't even convinced they needed it. I mean, we don't prescribe medicine at my place. They have to go through their primary care, or we refer to a local psychiatrist to do like their management stuff. But the individual had let their prescription lapse. In other words, they ran out, but I know what they were doing. But anyway, they ran out, and I said, well, you need to contact your doctor to go
Right.
to get in, and understand you can't just say, hey, I'm out, can I come in today? It doesn't work that way.
No,
Like,
it does not.
and they said, oh no, I can buy it on the street. I was like,
Good.
I don't wanna hear that.
Golly.
Yeah. And nowadays, with fentanyl being put in so many things, that's a dangerous thing to do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very scary.
That's just
Mhm.
craziness.
So then so that tells me that the person that is selling the Adderall may legitimately need it, but they're making the money, because they'll sell them $30, $40 a pill.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Get a prescription,
Mhm.
end up selling most of it, I guess.
If you've got a 30, I'm just going to use 30 day, even though it's 31 days in a lot of the months. But if you have a 30-day prescription
It's like
and you're selling, let's say you're selling for
$500,
35, that's
$45.
$1,050 a month
Whew.
you're making just off selling your Adderall.
Wow.
Yeah. That's just sad. Yeah. So,
Yes.
but anyway, but I just think, we definitely parents need to be vigilant. If their children, or if your kids struggling with anxiety or depression, no one has to know that they're going to therapy, but do not do your child a disservice by not put them in therapy.
Well,
Yes.
you're a counselor.
Mhm.
I mean, do we see more cases of ADHD now than we did many, many years ago?
Yes, yes.
And is it because society has changed so much?
No, I think a lot of it, and this is, I think a lot of it is food related, foods we're consuming.
Interesting.
There's been more and more studies done with a correlation between like FD&C red dye, FD&C blue dye causing ADHD.
Wow.
And the more I'm learning about how food affects your bodies, the more I can legitimately see that to be a real thing. And we have a caller. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hey, good morning, ladies. It's Steve. How you doing this morning?
Good, how are
Steve.
you?
How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good. Enjoying a good cup of coffee this morning.
Oh, that sounds good. I've
It's
got
cold
mine.
enough.
Got mine.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ring in on the hot chocolate. Y'all made me think of
Yes.
something
I was just
yesterday,
going
and
to
I
ask
tried it
you
this
about
morning.
that.
Okay, let's hear it. Where?
Okay. Got my favorite cup of coffee this morning,
Mhm.
and instead of sugar, I grabbed me a pack of hot chocolate with the little marshmallows
Oh,
and threw it right in the coffee.
Oh, that's a cool
So
thing.
I got some hot chocolate with a kick.
Oh, yes. I love that too.
Yeah, because that's definitely giving you actually extra sugar.
Right.
So, yeah, because you're getting the marshmallows and the actual.
And that
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit of, and that chocolate in the coffee, or vice versa, it's a good one.
Well,
That's what I
you
like
know,
to get when I'm
you know,
out.
Chocolate in a coffee is
And
a
that-
thing. Yeah,
And that one don't cost you but $1, and you don't have to leave the house.
correct. Even better versus $8 or however much it is.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Wow, it's a good idea.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
try that. I know that sometimes when I'm out, I'll get the drink like at Starbucks, the
Mhm.
coffee with the chocolate and all that. My favorite right now is a macchiato, because it's got a little bit of that caramel in it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So good. I started my sister on that. I didn't, because we both grew up in a military family where it was just like hot coffee on the stove all the time. So I got to where I don't like a lot of variations on my coffee. But after I had that one, and now my sister, she's hooked on it. Poor thing.
Some people drink frozen coffee.
I've done that before. My mama used to drink iced coffee all the time.
Yeah, well, I saw when I was up at Sheets this weekend back home because we don't have a Sheets down here.
Of course we don't.
Come on, we
Darn
need
it.
one. They had something which I needed to ask, but I didn't because there was a line. Frozen hot chocolate. Well, that's an anomaly because if it's frozen, it's not hot.
No, don't make this difficult.
Well, I'm just saying.
Bit of a paradox there.
Yeah, like if it's frozen, it's not hot. So what is it? Frozen chocolate drink? Yeah, I have to know. So when I'm going back up there next week, I'm gonna ask them what this is because I will report back because I do want to know. I'm going to try it.
Hey, I got another question for you. Y'all were talking about Nancy Pelosi this morning, how she got to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily a Pelosi fan or a foe, but I was just curious, Kelly. This question to you is: What do you not like about the lady? Like, what policies has she enacted or not enacted that you disagree with?
Well, there's a lot, but one of the things I don't like is the fact that she has served, a long time, and I'm a term limit person. But hold on, I'll tell you some of her things. I mean, I just think I agree. I believe.
Well, I mean, without looking it up, that's what I was wondering off the top of your head what you could name that would stick out to you. But the reason why I asked that is because it seems like that just like you can't support somebody because of the letter after their name, you really shouldn't, down somebody because of the letter after their name.
No.
I'm not really a big Pelosi fan, but everybody's been, down her so much. I went back and looked up her history a little bit, and she's quite an impressive lady. If you lay the policies aside, because there's policies I don't agree with as well, but she's a really impressive lady.
My biggest thing is the term limit thing, but don't get me wrong. There's a whole bunch of Republicans that don't need to be in there either. I mean, I'm not lumping it all a Democrat thing. I believe in term limits. So there's a whole bunch of Republicans in Congress I think should be, they should step aside as well. I'm equal opportunity on that.
I honestly, I think maybe you're missing a view or angle that you should look at this from. In that, if you truly don't want the far left agenda to be realized, she's one of the guards at the gate that's keeping them at bay. You got to think about the people who are in the opposing caucus. If they do come into power, you want people in there who are going to control the radicals. And she's exhibited that she does that. Now, she is left. So, I mean, like I say, there's some things she does that I don't agree with, and I can name them right off the top of my head. But that being said, she kind of keeps the AOCs and the extremists on the left in check. And she's exhibited that. So
I agree with that.
It puzzles me why you would want to get rid of somebody who's really doing kind of what you want them to do.
Because I think she's been in there too long. That's why.
She has, but
that's my number one reason.
I would suggest to you go and check out her bio and see where she comes from. And there was a big gap in her. I mean, she was the Speaker of the House, and then the Republicans took control, and she wasn't. And then when the Democrats took control, they made her Speaker of the House again. She was the first woman to ever be Speaker of the House. That's a pretty big accomplishment. And like I say, I've got things I disagree with her on, but I still respect the lady.
She was first elected into public office in 1987. She's had a long career.
That's what I'm saying. Like
she has.
Somebody else. That's my main issue for her. But
I get that, but I mean, who would you replace her with? Is the next question.
Yeah,
and that's where I say that to me it seems like you're still a little bit a victim of the propaganda. You want somebody gone, but you have no idea who you think will be a good replacement
for them. You've got to give somebody else a chance to see who you.
Well, I was going to say it's not like this. Right, but it's not like she's up there and she's just the leader, and nobody can be the leader, so she decides she don't want to be. They elect her to be
That's true.
But she's the one they keep choosing. And I mean, I kind of agree with the term limits. You know, maybe she shouldn't even be in Congress anymore because of term limits. But as long as she's there, they should be able to select who they want to select as their leader.
Well, my point is she shouldn't be in Congress. Like she should be out.
And that's an argument that maybe you could make on term limit sides, but then you shouldn't really single out one particular politician over that. You know, I mean, there's plenty of them that have been there longer than she has.
Oh, absolutely, and they all need to go. I'll give you, you know,
right.
So it's not just her. Don't think it's just her. I think 3 terms max is all anybody. A president can only do 2 terms. If the president can only do 2 terms, why should these people in Congress have to be able to do more?
Right. But I don't know if you're seeing where my train of thought's going. Is that it seems like that. I hate to use the word brainwashing because it's a bad word. It really is not a proper description. It's an influence, but it's like you pointed out on these Democrats all the time. These things that are a general thing that it could be applied to any politician that's been there over 15 years. So you're still you're being biased. Is what it seems like to me.
No, I've got a list of Republicans I don't like. I mean, I can start naming them.
I know, but you rarely talk about them. You usually point out general things that can be said about all politicians, but you seem to only point out about.
Then I'll make a point to start talking about.
And it's not just you
that I don't like.
Right, and it's not just you. It's the whole country that's this victim of that. There's millions of people that do that. They demonize the people on the left, and they're our fellow Americans. Some of them are very outstanding individuals. They just don't think the same way we do about how to run government. They have different ideas about it, but it doesn't mean that they're not doing a good job. I'm sure the people of California are, probably happy with, especially San Francisco, are happy with Nancy Pelosi. I wouldn't be happy if she was a North Carolina representative. I promise you that. But those people are probably happy with her, and they keep voting for her, and her caucus is happy with her. And once again, PBS did a documentary on her, and you can go look at it and see. And she did some pretty amazing things when she became the leader of the Democratic Party. They were pretty divided, pretty scattered, and she kind of brought them together. And for the first woman to be in that office to do that, she was pretty impressive. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you that necessarily that she should move on, but I think that you may be missing, like I say, the thing. Who would come behind her? What would they allow? Would you really be happy with the next person that takes that office?
Well, I think it would.
Or when that happens, are you going to look back with nostalgia about and wish Nancy Pelosi was still there?
No, I know I'll never do that. I can tell you that right now. Kevin McCarthy is set to be here. I'm not a huge fan of him either. So let's be clear.
I get that.
Other people that I think could do a better job, but she was the leader, so she stands out. I understand. I don't follow politics a lot. I don't watch it a whole lot. Some people get all into it. I don't. I don't have time. But so she stands out because she's always, when she was Speaker of the House, you hear more about her. So I couldn't probably name 5 House of Representative people in Congress right now. I mean, I could name a couple from North Carolina, but other than that, I can't even do that because that's how little politics I follow. Because I have too many other things I'm worried about. But with her, because she's Speaker of the House and the Senate Speaker of the House and the big cabinet people, the ones, quote, in charge, the leaders, I know more about them than I can tell you about the general one. So I don't know who's falling in her place. I don't know who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
My point I'm trying to get at is that there's this thing where we can all get caught up in it, and it don't matter what side you're on, where you like a knee-jerk reaction, you start demonizing the other side.
No, I'm just saying you've done it too long. So
and that's a possible argument, but once again, like I say, you got to think of it like a game of chess. I mean, yes, you got an argument that maybe she's been there too long, but what is the alternative going to be? Is it going to be an even more progressive leader of the Democratic caucus than she is, which is going to work against what you want the outcome to be.
Well, she's
You
not
see my point?
loyal. Like at some point, she's going to go
And I
anyway.
get that.
So
I get
there is
that.
going to
But
be
if,
someone to come on.
I'm sorry.
right,
Did
but
we take our 740?
Oh crap! No, we
Yeah,
didn't.
we're up against a hard commercial
crap.
again, Steve.
Yeah, listen,
I don't know. You always call
anyway,
that
I
commercial.
think I've kind of made my
You
point,
bring
so I'll
that
let
up.
y'all get on.
I understand completely what you're saying,
Yeah.
and it gives you a lot of food for thought here.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Well, y'all have a wonderful
All right,
day.
you thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you for your
day.
time.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, we're live in local real talk on Freedom 97.1, 1120 a.m. WSME. We'll be right back. And we are back, and we have a guest in the studio this morning. We have Marcy Friesner. Did I
Right.
say that right? Okay.
You did good.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks.
So, you are from Swansboro. Well, you live in Swansboro.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wear a bunch of hats. So,
Yes, she does.
Yeah. So, from minister to school administrator to baker, author. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So, yeah. I was telling you during the break that my sister and I had set out a few years ago to open a bakery, and we took the small business class at Coastal, which I highly recommend to anybody considering that resource center is phenomenal at all of our community colleges in North Carolina. But we set out to open a bakery, and she went into real estate, and I birthed Salt and Light Academy 13 years ago. So, it's a little homeschool hybrid in Swansboro, but we also rescue students from other challenging school situations. Some of them wouldn't graduate from high school. Some of them have family struggles. And so our heart is to minister to the entire family. So we do teach a curriculum. There are standards. They get a state diploma, but we also minister to the whole family. So when there are other concerns that could be, prohibiting a good education, we're in there. We're in the thick with the families.
Okay.
So that's exciting. And in that same space, we have TJ's, which is named after Timothy and Jeremiah. That's our outreach mission. And I am an ordained pastor, and we've been doing that about 7 years, reaching our local community, and then also doing things overseas. My sister and I are both missionaries. We actually just had a really neat 5K in Swansboro. And one of the things we're talking about today is the mental health crisis. And the 5K I have to share with you was our 9th 5K that we've done in this area. And we donated the proceeds from the first place runner to something called Ricky's Retreat. And that is a young man, Ricky Kidwell, who took his life just a few months ago. And his parents have decided to be proactive and to do something to help other kids or young adults who might be walking a mile in his shoes, so to speak. So it was really neat to see the first place runner this year is Ricky's best friend since the first grade. And it was really cool how
awesome.
God
That's
ordained
awesome.
that. Yeah. So, and then author, yes, just published a 40-day devotional and working on sharing that with people, really, again, helping.
Now, the title of
mental health.
that is His Child.
Correct.
And it's available on Amazon too. I just looked it up, and it's right there on Amazon if you're interested in looking at the reviews and ordering the book.
Yes, I co-authored with a friend in Mexico. So you'll see S.A. Moore and Marcy Jean on the cover page.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I see that. Yes.
So, what are some of the things you currently have going on?
So I'm excited to be with y'all this morning. I currently have some plans to hopefully get into the middle schools and high schools and really do some suicide awareness. The best way to prevent, if there is such a thing, is education. And the more we can love people and help them see that the sun always rises, unless you live in extreme polar places, the sun always comes up. So sometimes we can get in such a headspace that we don't realize that happens. So another thing we're doing with that is Salt and Light is putting together Christmas Spectacular. So on December 16th at 6:15, free and open to the public, we're going to have a Christmas concert. We've got a choir.
Nice.
We've teamed up with Act Dance Sing, which is a local performing training studio. And then we've also got Santa coming, and our good friend Samantha Ann, who's a professional photographer, will do pictures with Santa. My sister and I are always thinking outside the box and trying to do whatever we can in the community. And we've got a lot of great friends that team up with us as well. So my encouragement to people is when you're thinking about that next step, just don't go it alone. So there's a lot of things. Eden, Gordon Hill coming alongside me to really help. Sorry, I get a little bit emotional, but it's just the goodness of God that's so overwhelming in my life. So to make sure that you have good people who will support your efforts. I mean, really, the world in the United States of America, we have so much privilege and so much opportunity. So to be able to start a small business, incredible. And to be able to do these things, the 5K, the Christmas party, all these things are really great. And anybody can do these kinds of things.
Okay. It's top of the hour, so let's go ahead and do the 60 seconds Fox News break. But if anybody has any questions for Marcy, you can call us at 910-333-0139. Give us 60 seconds and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back, and our guest in the studio this morning, oh, we have feedback, is Marcy Friesner, and she is a local minister, businesswoman.
And also a peer support specialist.
Mhm. Yeah. So what in what capacity do you work in as a peer support specialist?
So I recently got my certification. We inherently do a lot of that at TJ's and at Salt and Light. So I'm not officially serving in that capacity with any one entity, but what I learned in that class is completely invaluable. If anybody and everybody could take that class, Terry Spears is one who teaches here locally, absolutely incredible. And so what she helped me to understand is the stigma associated with names like even just alcoholic, junkie, addict. We need to get rid of those things. We need to recognize our identity in Christ. So if I say I'm Marcy and I'm a recovering alcoholic, or I say I'm a recovering procrastinator. I'm still working on that one, or I'm a child of God who is struggling with this particular thing. Our words have power, right? And so they're very different in our lives. So we speak it over ourselves, but also speaking to other people. I mean, if you were identified by that thing, with our students, we do the same thing. I don't identify, this is so-and-so who's autistic. This is so-and-so with ADHD. And it actually makes my blood boil when I hear parents, I meet their kids for the first time. He has anxiety, depression, ADHD. We need to be careful with our words. So one of the things I love about the peer support specialist training is coming out of that place of stigma and trauma that we've been in for so long and really empowering people.
Okay.
I understand that. I know that you serve human trafficking victims, and you're there to help women, empower women in recovery.
Yeah. How much time do we have for that one?
You go right ahead.
Can I just say, we don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to say it. Pornography directly fuels sex slavery. The majority of the porn that we are getting, free or otherwise, is crime scene evidence for sex slaves. And anyone in that industry has not chosen that from a healthy place, a healthy headspace. There's a lot of trauma involved in that. Unfortunately, a lot of families are selling their own children into this. And I'm not talking about Africa, even though we think third world, we think, places like that. I'm talking about the United States of America, where one of our women recently gave testimony about being sold right here in Hounslow County, and the neighbors having no idea that she was trapped inside that home and was being bought and sold on a regular basis. So if we can help educate people to turn the computer off, turn the porn off, it's not free. It's being bought at the price of a real person. When we talk about Pornhub and we say, well, only 2% of Pornhub is child porn. How do we justify that? Because it's only 2%. Like that's completely illegal.
Yeah.
So a lot of legal fronts for illegal activity. But what I get to do, my heart, my passion, my love, is I get to love these women into who they were really made by God to be and help them out of the trauma of what they have thought has been who they were. Some of them are told, this is all you'll ever be.
Mhm.
So I all I can tell you is I get to hug them. I get to love them. I just had dinner Saturday night with a couple of the girls that I was house mom to a year ago. And so they keep coming back. They keep calling me mom. I keep reaching out. I just want to be here to love them.
Do you do a particular program with them, or is there like, do you just work with, certain halfway houses or safe houses? Like what exactly do you do with those type of women?
Yeah, so I have been connected with several different local organizations. And at the current moment, God has removed me from those particular places because the vision is bigger than just a 6-month program
Mhm.
or a 1-year program. So I'm personally seeing some deficiencies in what do we do after the fact. So after
Mhm.
you've had 6 months of recovery, after you've had a year of counseling and Bible study and AA meetings or NA meetings, we say, have fun, good
Mhm.
luck, and a lot of times we even say, remember, relapse is part of recovery. And that's something I'd like our language to change. Relapse has the potential to be part of your recovery, but you don't have to own that either. So our heart is to continue to operate with these local programs for after these men and women graduate. So another really cool thing we have coming up is in January on Friday nights at TJ's in Salt and Light. There, it's 686 West Corbett Avenue in Swansboro. We are going to do a Friday night meeting, 7 to 8:30. Anybody who wants to come out, it can be you personally walking out a journey of recovery. It can be you trying to find your place in this world. It can be you as a family member who's affected by someone. We're including that whole suicide, grief, and loss dynamic as well. So I'm excited about that.
Well, I definitely think that I've worked in substance abuse for 22 years, and I'm a licensed substance abuse counselor. I'm an LCAS, and then I'm also a licensed mental health counselor. And one thing I have never said, because I don't like it, is when people, especially when they're coming out of, let's say, 30-day treatment, and they get into some of these recovery programs, is when they're told relapse is a part, because you just gave somebody the
For sure.
to relapse and go, well, see, that's just part of my journey. And I never say that to any of my clients ever. Because you're not giving them an out.
Right.
So I agree. I'm glad that you aren't, falling with that thinking, because I think that that's part of why we're in the mess we're in now, in terms of addiction, because people are often told it's okay.
Right. Right.
But then you can start over, but you've got somebody starting over 42 times.
Exactly.
So no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear you say that. And for our listeners who might be in a place where they're just really unsure, they don't think they can do this thing, call me. I mean, my cell phone number is everywhere. Reach out to me on social media, call the TJs or the school office. We want to be available to help you, connect you with resources, connect you with good people. Reach out to your family. That's another thing that we're noticing with the epidemic, with the suicide epidemic, and even the opioid crisis and this whole fentanyl thing. We isolate ourselves and we get in this little box where we think that, well, we've got this thing, and at any moment we can just put it down if we want to. And the enemy is using that to buy more time and to feed the lies. Mm-hmm. So we need to really understand. And if you're somebody in a position where you feel like you're in a good headspace, you need to let people know that too. You need to say, look, right, I'm here for you. I'll walk alongside you. There just aren't enough people doing that, unfortunately.
So your school, is it like they come there, or do you assist with homeschooling?
They can come to school. We're open Monday through Thursday from 10 to 3.
Okay.
I have a full-time ministry partner, Jessica Shaheen, and she and I work together. We take no more than 15 on a given day.
Okay.
So our teacher-student ratio is 7-ish. It's K through 12. And it's a one-room classroom, and it is beautiful. Some of our older listeners, my grandmother, who was the product of a one-room classroom, will tell you she ran a successful business. She raised great children. She did very well for herself, and she's the product of a one-room classroom. It works. It's really beautiful.
So are these kids, for example, homeschool, but then they come to your school for additional help, or they some just literally only come to your school and that is their school?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
everything in
Gotcha.
between.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
each family comes and we decide literally a case by case basis. No two look the same. No two are using the same curriculum.
Mhm.
No two have the same number of days that they come to school and how many hours they're with us, and what their situation looks like at home and the support they receive at home, or the online learning or the book learning is different for every single one of them. So yeah, we try to make sure they're getting the best that they can get for their learning style and for the family dynamic.
Okay. I had a question and my mind went blank. Legal have for a second because I hate it when I
Well,
do
let
that.
me ask you, listening to this, say if I had some issues with, I've been sexually abused, or I had mental health issues, or I'm just lost in the world, how can I come to you?
Well, I mean, the first step would be simply to reach out, social
Right.
media, email, phone call, and we'll get together. I was recently reading some threads. People are very upset with the evangelical Christian community, and I read this blanket comment about pastors and leaders are inviting us to coffee because they want to spew their agenda at us and they don't actually want to hear that. So I kind of hesitated to say we'll go have coffee. But those are lies again from the
Right.
enemy. Maybe I'm sure everybody's got an agenda. Let's just be real, right? I have an agenda to love you into your identity in Christ. I have an agenda to bring you to a place where you can be at peace with your mental health. None of this is about me. So
if
I
a
would love
person
you.
goes to you and you help them, you're also there to I don't know how to say this. You're also there to direct that person to different resources that are available to them to help
Yes.
them.
Yes, Lee. Thank you. That's the job of the peer support specialist.
Right.
But I understand that people aren't going to go to resources if they don't trust me.
Right.
So that's why I said we need to get together first, and I need to build a relationship with you so you can trust me. Obviously, in a crisis situation where you need immediate assistance, domestic violence shelter in Morehead City, Family Promise in Morehead City, True Justice International. I Am is another human trafficking mission out of Pamlico County. I got a laundry list full
Right.
of places, people, counselors, anything. But first, you have to trust me that I'm not
Right.
throwing you to the wolves,
Right.
and that I'm getting you the help you need. So
Exactly.
exactly that.
Now,
Yeah.
all these different programs that are available for people that are seeking help, are they programs that are offered for free, or is there any type of expense for the person?
Yeah, the majority of these programs are free.
There you
If
go.
there happens to be an
Right.
expense, there are all kinds of nonprofits out there. I met a woman, and unfortunately, I don't have her information with me, but I met a woman a few months ago in New Bern who stood up at an event to bring awareness about the opioid crisis. And she said she started her own nonprofit when her son died in a hotel room to pay for people to get into recovery centers as needed. So the resources are available. Don't let finances be a stumbling
Right.
block.
Right.
There's
Good
a
to
lot
know.
of, I mean, Trillium manages the state dollar funds for people with no insurance
Yes,
to get into
yes.
treatment. So they can go that route as well. So there's always a way to get somebody into treatment, whether it's mental health or substance abuse.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, people need to know that there is help out there, and that if they can't afford the help, that like talking to Marcy, she can help them, and help supply them with resources to further aid them. That's free for them. So that's good to know.
And we do have great homeless shelters in our area. I mean, nobody has to be on the street.
Right.
If there's an addiction struggle, obviously, the homeless shelter is not going to allow you in with a current active addiction struggle.
That's
You've got to
true.
get help for the addiction. They have to make sure the facility is safe for everybody who goes there. So it's nice to know that we have churches that open their doors. I know Swansboro United Methodist, St. Mildred in Swansboro, they'll open on Thanksgiving Day, and they'll serve hot Thanksgiving meals
That's
to anybody who
awesome.
wants to come in.
Right.
They're not the only ones, but they're in my general vicinity.
Right.
So, I'm very aware. One of the things I would encourage people to do is, again, I'm an outside the box thinker, to think outside the box. I remember when the kid's father left us and we were going to have that first Christmas without dad, I called the homeless shelter. I said, how can we help you on Christmas morning? And so I took my 3 then teenagers, 12, 13, 14, went to the homeless shelter right downtown here in Jacksonville. We made breakfast for those
That's
men and
awesome.
women.
Yes.
And the kids, I told the kids, I could not afford Christmas.
Right.
They were going to get one gift from mom under the tree. We were losing everything because he was our primary source of
Right.
income. And I had just opened the school. And they didn't believe me that there was going to be one present. And I'll never forget those kids getting up Christmas morning. And I stayed in bed to avoid seeing their faces when they saw one gift under the tree. And we went up and served breakfast with the homeless. And on our drive home, I said, y'all, you woke up in your bed this morning. That's a Christmas gift.
That's right.
You had heat when you got up. That's a Christmas gift. These people had to wake up in a shelter, not knowing where their next meal might be coming from or not knowing. It was so incredible. And then Glad Tidings Church in Morehead City that year had sponsored our family against my will, because I said, we're not in that kind of dire need. There's other families that need help, but they insisted. And so my brother-in-law surprised the kids by taking all the gifts over while we were serving at the homeless shelter. So when we walked in the front door, they saw more Christmas gifts than they'd ever seen in their lives. And my 12-year-old son, Caleb, said, I know there's a Jesus because my mom could not do this for us.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
good. That's awesome.
So do you feel like maybe some of your past personal experiences played a huge role into what you do today?
Not only my past personal experience, but my current personal experiences. My mother is an alcoholic and I really struggle to help her. I don't understand because she's the shell of the woman that used to be my mother.
Yes.
My nephew just overdosed and we planned his funeral at 28 years old. And I've got a brother sitting in prison in Ohio, serving a sentence, was drunk and high in a vehicle, caused an accident. His best friend did not survive that car accident. So I'm walking it out today with grace, with love, with compassion. I'm not saying anything against my mother and my brother for the choices they're making, because I know it's rooted in something, right? But I want to help them expose the root. That's my heart. You know, if we can help people in any situation to why am I angry? What's this anger situation that I have? Maybe it's not a drug addiction. Maybe it's explosive rage. There's a root there somewhere, and it's trauma, it's hurt, and it's been covered. And so my heart, yes, exactly. My past, my present, it all plays into where we're at and what we're doing.
I know you had said that in one of your bios that you had done, took the cake decorating. Do you still do that?
Oh,
I'm just
yes, I
curious.
absolutely do.
Yeah,
That's a very good shift there,
Yeah,
Kelly.
yeah.
No, I love it. I actually the last cake that I did was so much fun. Again, it's a ministry.
Mhm.
My godmother taught me that. My godmother, Aggie, had a bakery before she left the earth to be with Jesus. And she prayed over every cake. And I really do. So I had the last one I did was, it looks like a basketball going through a net, and I don't do fondant. So it was buttercream, but this 14-year-old walks in the door with his mom and they open the lid of the box and he goes, whoa, that's my cake. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
just simple things like that. So yeah, I
Wow.
dabble with that when I've got time.
Well, cake will make anybody feel good.
Right?
So I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for lightening up the mood here. 'Cause,
Yeah, I appreciate that
you
too.
know, I'm just like close to the edge here listening to these stories.
What would you say, do you think that in terms of the work that you do currently is the greatest need for you?
Oh, wow. That's good. The greatest need is probably volunteer support. With the school, we also need some substitute teachers. It's not an easy job. So if you're interested in that, and then this Friday night gathering that we're going to start in January, we definitely need volunteers there. I intend to include, like I said, healthy. Sometimes we get in a meeting situation where there's 50 people there and we're all unhealthy or varying degrees of unhealthy.
Right.
We need some very healthy people to show us what life looks like healthy, what life looks like clean and sober.
Yeah.
So we need some people, good, bad, and ugly. We welcome them all to join us on Friday nights to support us there. And we need you to pray that God he makes provision for us. We're expanding into a second unit. He's already made it clear that that's what we're supposed to do. So continued provision, which I don't doubt he'll bring, because these things do cost money. I don't go there. I don't do that. My life is very different than that. But the reality is, all of these places, Philippians Place, I mentioned Family Promise, the domestic violence shelter. A lot of these are faith-based organizations,
They
so they
are.
don't receive government funding.
Correct.
So we have to think about that. Nobody likes to hear the church ask for money, but when you have good churches doing good work in the community, they have to fund that somehow.
They do.
So we're not just, I don't take a salary as the pastor of TJ's. Just make that disclaimer in case anybody wants to know what I'm driving or where I live.
Uh-huh.
So yes, thank you for asking that question.
Now, what kind of response have you had from the kids, for example, that are going through the school?
I love to talk about that. I so love to talk about that. So a lot of our kids who have already graduated just open the door and pop in for a hug from me or Miss Jess. They always come back. We had one just last week. We did a little class election that was a lot of fun. We invited Lisa Carpenter and Eda Now, and the kids in this class election were really excited. One of our graduates came back and wrote on the whiteboard, vote so-and-so, picked a candidate. And
Right.
I was like, you can't do that. You're going to bias the community because everybody's going to see his name and
Right.
go, oh, if he's rooting for him, then so am I. The kids are behind it 110%. We just packed some boxes for Operation Christmas Child. And a week ago, I was talking about some friends of mine who are missionaries in Africa and what they do. And one of my students, freshman in high school, says, why do I even care? I don't even know those people and they don't live anywhere near me. And you sit for a minute, and this is how good God is. A senior, a good friend of this kid's, elbowed him and said, dude, because they're humans.
So we got it.
If I
Yeah.
had paid
Yeah.
that kid to say that, but I was in shock. Like, I was so grateful that was his response as a senior boy here in the United States of America, who drives a nice car, who has great resources. Those are the moments that I live for, and the kids get it and they love it and they keep coming back for more. We have kids, even academically, Kelly, like, can I get more work, Miss Marcy? I'm all done with everything. Can I get more work, Miss Jess? Like,
That's
what?
awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Any middle school teacher or high school listening is like, wait a minute, what are they feeding these
That's
kids that
just
they ask
awesome.
for
But
more
kids
work to
do
do?
want that structure, and they
Right.
want, and that what you just talked about is a prime example of what I tell parents I work with all the time. Kids listen to way more than you. They're listening even when you think they're not, and they're getting more than you think they are,
Right.
both good and bad.
That's right.
So if they're hearing negativity, they're hearing it. They may not react to it right away, but they're getting it. If they're hearing positivity, same thing. Oh, we'll take a break.
Yeah, we go
Okay.
ahead and do our commercial break
Yep.
and weather. And then I want to ask you about your 7 steps from surviving to thriving.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We're live and local Real Talk on Freedom 97.1, 1120 a.m. WSME. We'll be right back. And we are back and ready to tackle some weather real quick.
Yeah, let's do the marine forecast,
Yeah.
which is brought to you by Tideline Marine. Tideline has some great sales going on through the end of this month. All gift shop lamps are 50% off, and other gift shop items are 20% off.
Mhm.
Some other specials this month include a $10 gift card with any tackle package over $50. Do you need a new reel? Well, be sure to enter into the Florida fishing reel giveaway. How about $2,000 off an Aqua Sport 2100 center console? To see all the specials going on this month, stop by Tideline Marine, 159 Old Bridge Street on the banks of the New River. And we have a small craft advisory in effect until noon today. Today, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots with gusts up to 30 knots, diminishing 10 to 15 knots late today. Seas 3 to 5 feet, dominant period 5 seconds. Tonight, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, dominant period 5 seconds. Friday, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, diminishing 5 to 10 knots in the afternoon, seas 2 to 3 feet. And Saturday, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, adjacent sounds and rivers with a light chop.
Today's going to start off cloudy, then gradually become sunny with a high of 51 and winds gusting as high as 15 miles an hour at times. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 29. It's going to be cold and frosty. Tomorrow, sunny, high of 54. Calm winds, though. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low of 30. Saturday, mostly sunny, high of 57. like it.
There you go.
I like it.
Weather in an instant.
I like it. So you were asking her about the
7 steps from surviving to thriving.
Okay.
Your 7 steps.
All righty. Well, let's visualize the word impossible.
Mhm.
And let's put an apostrophe after the I. Let's put a space after the M.
All right.
We've just changed it to I'm
possible.
possible. We've just changed our perspective.
Right.
So the 7 steps are all about perspective. The first one is become property manager.
Mhm.
Talked about my sister in real estate. You are the property manager of who rents the space in your head.
True.
You decide.
Mhm.
Second step, think your way out of impossible. That simple illustration. Think about the apostrophe, think about the space. The third way, practice positivity. That's the I'm possible.
Mhm.
If you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Mhm.
Fourth one, remember that impossible is possible with God. So when we get to that spot where we run out, he steps in, Philippians 4:13. Step 5, take every thought captive. We have power to do that. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Those negative thoughts get in all the time. And why is it? I mean, just random negative thought about something you experienced in your childhood or something that happened yesterday in traffic. Dismiss it. Don't receive it. Move on to something else. And step 6, this is a tough one. I think they're all tough, but be content with taking just the next step.
Mhm.
We talked at the break, Lee, about getting projects done,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You can't finish that project if you think about the end result because there's too much going on.
Right.
But if you can take that next step, then you can work toward finishing the project. But we got to be content with just the next step.
Mhm.
And then 7 is to walk in this new perspective. So after you've got that placement, now you got to walk it out. You got to practice it. We don't say practice makes perfect because none of us are perfect, but practice does make progress. And when you start to see progress, then you
Sure.
know you're walking it out.
Mhm. Sure.
Yeah, I like that. I
Mhm.
like that.
So other than your upcoming, the Christmas show and the school and everything, is there anything else upcoming that you have currently, or just are you planning things?
Yeah, we
Just
are planning
places?
things, but
Okay.
one of those plannings, like I said, is a middle school and high school motivational speaking tour. I've actually got some great students who can really dance because I was thinking it'd be really cool to do some kind of hip hop, K-pop,
Yeah.
whatever sort
Yeah.
of vibe. And there's great music out there. I would say that too. Like music has been so instrumental, in my life, and for helping to overcome this negative thinking and
Yes.
where the space is. And so that is actually coming up too. I've been taking voice and piano lessons. So our concert is exciting because my voice teacher has been begging me to have a place where I can sing. And so, yeah, Eden and I are working together on just all sorts of opportunities. Going to do a book signing at that Christmas event.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do local book signings for anybody who's interested. And the 40-day devotional is really a mere essay. The co-author calls us the sinner and the saint. He talks about that in the book. I have 2 older sisters that did a lot of the mistake making that I could watch from behind the scenes.
Right.
So I could go, oh, not doing that,
Yeah.
not having that. My biggest sister, Michelle, says, glad I could help you with it.
Yeah.
And then SA has had to walk out a lot in his life with extreme trauma as a child, and then recovery challenges and jail time. And he talks about that in the book. So together, we've got both sides, and we're able to walk that 40 days together. So it's good for anybody in any space to be able to relate either way or both ways. So I would encourage people. The book is Breath Prayers. And so we're really not selling a book because all of the royalties, 100% are going back into ministry. One of the big things that I'm excited about is jail ministry. So I've been invited to do some jail outreaches, and getting copies of the book in the hands of inmates is important to us. So that is where that funding is going. When you buy a book, all of the royalties are going into buying more books to get into the hands of people in recovery centers and who are incarcerated.
I have a friend in Carteret that does jail ministry there. So yeah, that's
Nice.
a very needed, a big time needed.
Well,
thing.
you do
Yeah.
jail visits too.
Yeah, but I actually
counseling.
see my clients
Yes,
there.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. They
can't
need
come
us
to
all,
therapy.
every bit of us.
Yeah,
I know we
they're in
lost
jail.
her one day, didn't know she was down at the jailhouse. Everybody was panicking. Where's Kelly? I said, she's in jail.
I was at work. Yeah.
She's in jail.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, that's all the questions I have.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot.
If it's a lot, yes. And I posted your bio on our show Facebook page. So people who are interested in getting up with you have a way of, seeing it there.
Well, for those on the radio, if someone wants to contact you, how would you want them to contact you?
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with my cell phone number. I'm just going to throw it right out there. It's
Right.
everywhere anyway. 910-367-2497.
Okay.
You can come to 686 West Corbett Avenue and knock on the door of Suite 3.
Mhm.
You can also find me. The easiest email address is Marcy Jean Wrights.
Mhm.
It's Marcy IE at Gmail. Marcy Jean Wrights, WRITES at gmail.com. Those are all great places. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You
Okay.
can find me there as well.
Okay.
One thing I really want to make sure we share is that this holiday season can be amazing.
Yes.
It can also be very depressing.
Mhm.
So if you already know this going into it, this is where this go from surviving to thriving comes in.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about how you're going to survive this holiday season, think about how you're going to thrive. And if I can give you another example,
Go for it.
after we started ministering at the homeless shelter on Christmas morning, they changed what they were doing in churches. We're helping the homeless so they didn't have to be in the shelter on Christmas morning. So my sister and I were like, okay, now what can we do? Because we want to be outside of ourselves on Christmas morning. My kids had moved out, and it was me and then her and her husband. Her kids are older. So we decided to do hot meals for the Marines who have to stay on duty.
Mhm.
And so just the 2 of us in her little kitchen with some crock pots,
Mhm.
we made hot breakfasts, and we took those trays on to Camp Lejeune,
Mhm.
and we surprise visited as many Marines standing duty as we could. And I tell you what, the gratitude
Oh,
that
yeah.
comes out of those men and
Oh,
women.
yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then one of my students said it yesterday. Is anybody just really feeling good right now after we packed the shoe boxes? So it's an overflow, right? My mother always said kindness is the hardest thing to give away.
Yeah.
Because it's usually returned.
Mhm.
Right.
And so think about that. Instead of me sitting at home trying to survive a Christmas with my kids not there, because it was the first Christmas that my kids weren't at home with me, I still celebrated with them a few days before. Why does it matter if it was December 25th or not?
Right.
But we let the enemy make us
Correct.
believe
Yeah,
that Christmas morning the kids didn't get up and they didn't
Mhm.
come out and I didn't make them breakfast pizza, blah, blah, blah. So I shifted my focus.
Okay.
And that's what we can
Yeah.
do. That's what I would encourage everybody to do.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. I also added all your contact information onto the post now. So,
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
What does
So-
the licensed counselor have to say for us for going into a holiday season?
Oh, we don't even have enough time. I think that simplicity is key, and I think everyone
That's a
is
good word.
everyone is individualistic. So you can have 8 people in this room, for example, that are battling depression or anxiety, and they all have to handle it in a different way. any kind of mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment for that matter is not a one size fits all. And I think where we go wrong as practitioners often is people try to use that textbook case on everyone. It does not work that way. You have to, if you do not tailor your treatment to the individual, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
You can't go in there with one particular curriculum or one particular mode of thinking and think it's blanket going to work for everybody. You have to meet the person where they are and where they're there. So that people tend to overdo it in the holiday. It becomes almost like a competition,
Yeah.
I think. And I tell people scale back. And I've seen a lot this year, and I did this already. And my husband came home to the lights on the house last night, but I didn't put them up. The company did. They showed up yesterday. But if for some people, there's that big debate currently on Facebook. Wait till after Thanksgiving or put your tree up now. And what I tell people, if it makes you happy and it's giving you joy,
That's right.
go ahead and decorate your house. If it's your house. And if it and if you want to wait till after Thanksgiving, there's no rule. Where did this whole rule thing come into play?
That's right.
So, do what works for you and don't buy into what society tells you or as long as it's not illegal and hurting anybody, if it makes you happy, it works for you, that's fine. And don't try to outdo somebody. A lot of times in neighborhoods, and I see it in my own neighborhood, because there's a particular house down the street.
The Griswolds.
They always yeah. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do what works for you, because where people a lot of times fall into traps of, especially of anxiety, is trying to keep up with everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's totally not about that.
That's such a good word.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked you that question. Yeah. The simplicity. That's a really,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
works for
agree
you.
with that. And, we've been talking about that quite a bit at the station here about putting up your tree.
I put mine
And
up.
I remember when Christmas was over, the past Christmas, I was so excited about the new ornaments that I bought because I decided to change everything about my tree.
Yeah.
I wanted a tree for me for once.
Yes.
So I did. I put up my tree last weekend and I feel so happy. I'm happy about
I'm
it.
telling
It's
you.
pretty.
Yeah.
And it gives me joy. And I'm thinking, why did I always feel like I had the need to wait till
That's
a
my
certain day in
point. Why?
December?
Yes. Why?
I always had to decorate it traditional. So I made those changes. I mean, it's just me there. So
But it works for you. And
that's
it
right.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of times people tailor their happiness to what they think others think it should be.
Yeah, I
We
always
got to
did
get
that.
back to what makes us, like I said, I mean, obviously not doing anything illegal or going to hurt
Right.
somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
no.
We know
But,
where
I
you're
mean,
going.
Yeah.
I
We're
don't need
talking
that.
about good things, but, stop. A lot of times if we could fall out of that trap of trying to please everybody else and start pleasing ourselves.
See,
a
and
little
I
more,
have always been that way.
Yeah,
I
then
always put other
things-
people
yeah.
first. And I leave myself last. And
Well,
I've been trying to break that now.
look at it this way. When you fly on a plane,
Yes,
they'll always say, put your oxygen mask on first,
that's right.
and then help those who cannot help themselves, elderly children. Because if you're knocked out because you can't breathe, who's going to put that mask
That's
on those
right.
people? It's the same concept.
Yeah. And Lee and I talked about this too. It's the difference between self-care
Yes.
and selfish.
That's
correct.
right.
There
Sometimes
is a
we,
difference. Yes.
sometimes we feel like we're being selfish,
But
but
you're
it's not.
It's just straight up self-care. And everybody, I don't care who you are, you have to utilize some form of self-care. Now, there are people that take self-care to the extreme. I get it. But some don't do any self-care. So you have to find that balance that works for you.
Yes.
That's what I tell
I
people
agree
every
with
day.
that.
Yeah.
She tells me that all the time.
Yeah.
Quit being so nice.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't help
Yeah,
it.
and I'm not trying to do
Yes.
into Scrooge or the
Right.
Grinch, but if sadly in this day and age, a lot of times if you give an inch, people take 42 miles.
Mhm.
Right.
And they walk all over you or use you or steal from you or whatever. So you just have to have that boundary. It's just all about boundaries and positivity and positive actions. If you do something positive for somebody, it will come back to you. And then they will do something positive. It's almost like that pay it forward thing that people do a lot of times.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
And I
So,
love doing that. I
Mhm.
love giving to a complete stranger,
mhm.
like being in the drive-through and paying for
I've
the
done that.
person
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
behind me.
It's
I've
fun.
done
It's a lot
that.
of fun. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that just brings me
It
so
does. It
much
makes
joy.
you feel good.
It
Yeah.
does. It does. It really does.
So, well, Marcy, thank you very
Well,
much.
I
thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you so
And
much.
Now
Yeah.
we've got your contact information.
Yes.
we know if we have anybody that needs to
Got
be
it all.
referred.
And I know
Um,
how to get up with you.
Yeah, I've got.
And I
someone-
meant it. It's not
Yeah,
just lip
Right,
service. Yeah.
right.
Well, I've got someone in mind that I was thinking about. I may have to give you your information for the school issue because
Great.
their child is struggling.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, okay. Well, everyone, we're going to take our break. It's time. Oh, we're right on time too. So we're live and local real talk on Freedom 97.1, 1120 a.m. WSME. We'll be right back. And we are back. That was a good interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a great time.
Yeah.
So enjoyed talking to her.
She's very
and
bubbly. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
and she's inspiring.
Hmm.
You know, she really is.
Yeah.
And what her walks through life,
Mhm.
her past personal experiences, and what she's doing now. I mean, I found it very inspiring.
Mhm.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm glad she came.
Yep.
And thank you, Eden. Send out a
Yeah.
shout to my friend Eden.
Mhm. For hooking you up with
Yes,
her.
sirree.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm looking right here. Apparently, hospitals are given ratings, and
Oh gosh.
no, this is Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
And this is kind of scary. I need to read this, but it just popped up onto my newsfeed as we were sitting here. 4 Charlotte area hospitals received a C grade for patient safety by a national watchdog group. That's scary to think about.
That has, I'm sure, a lot to
Yeah,
do
the
with
leapfrog group.
things like in the hospital on the property, like slips and falls and falling out of bed, and oh yes, they have to report
Yeah.
all that. That's
Yeah, it's
reportable. And so,
leapfrog group's a national watchdog, nonprofit watchdog that advances patient safety in hospital, which I'm all about. 30% nationally, 30% of hospitals received a grade A,
Mhm.
28% received a B, and 36% received a C, and only 1% of hospital nationwide received an F, but none in the Carolinas. Well, that's good to know. That makes me happy to hear.
It makes me happy, but I would like to see what the rating is
Yeah.
on some local hospitals. That's
Yeah.
all I got to say.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad that these places do stuff like this, though. And they check certain things like MRSA infections, bloodstream infections, C. diff, kind of thing. I know somebody battling C. diff currently.
Wow.
Falls, like you mentioned, falls and stuff. So yeah, it matters. Objects unintentionally left in the body after surgery.
Oh gosh.
That's
I've
scary
heard
to
those
think about.
stories.
I have.
Ugh.
I've never known anybody it's happened to.
So you're
That's
walking
kinda
around
creepy.
and you're rattling. What's
That's
that?
creepy. All right, we got a caller. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hey, good morning, ladies. It's Robin.
Hey, Robin.
Hey,
What's up?
Robin.
Hey, interesting show, interesting questions, but I was calling on a topic that was brought up yesterday that kind of made me lift my eyebrows. One of your callers called in about, you were talking about the Rear Admiral who made the comments about China and things like that, and and I heard the caller make a comment that we should give Taiwan back to the Chinese because it belonged to the Chinese. Which is probably one of the most ludicrous things that I've ever heard, period, in reference to, giving up a sovereign nation back to a country that they ran from to begin with. You study the Chinese history, the People's Republic of China, which is a communist regime, and when they led the communist revolution with Mao Zedong and then General Kai-shek, who led the Kuomintang, which was a political party and group in Republic of China at that time before they became the People's Democratic Republic or the Communist branch of the Chinese people. They fled to Taiwan. They became a sovereign nation, and we have an agreement with Taiwan. In fact, when I was on active duty, we still had an Air Force base that was in China, or in Taiwan, I should say. And, the Rear Admiral that you brought up, that made that study at the Strategic Command, he's spot on. He's spot on about the Chinese, and we are focusing our attention on Russia in that particular region of the world, and yet we're losing sight of China. I'm being Korean, half Korean. My uncle, my mother went through the Korean War. They went through that, and I never forget. Before my uncle passed away, and I was really close to him, he told me. He said, it's not the Soviet Union back then, as Russia was called, that you have to be aware of. He said, you have to be aware of the Chinese. He said, watch the Chinese, the communist regime of China. They came across the border in Korea when North and South Korea were at war, and the U.S. and troops got involved, and then the Chinese came storming across the Yellow River into Korea and pushed us all the way back. Across the 38th parallel. So, this is something that Rear Admiral brings to the attention of the American public in his studies on the communist regime and their agenda and what they're trying to do. And for years they've been kind of silent. They've been sitting back in the background, watching things evolve in front of them. They haven't taken an active stance, really, per se, in any of the conflicts, especially the one right now that's going on with Ukraine and Russia. And take the words of my uncle. He warned me, and he warned my mom. The Chinese are the ones that we have to really bear watching. They're going to pose a threat in the future, and he was absolutely right. But with that thinking, let's return Taiwan back to China. Well, let's return South Korea back to North Korea then, which subsequently goes back to the Communist Republic of China. that statement really bothered me that someone would think that way. You want to show how weak our military is, then let's just stand by and let Taiwan be sucked into the Chinese government, the communist government. I mean, that will show true weakness. So when I heard that comment, it literally bothered me that somebody would think that way, and it bothered me absolutely all night. I know for some people that doesn't really mean anything, but to me, having relatives from that side of the world, that's really, really alarming that somebody would think that way.
I imagine, yeah. Hey, you want to hang on, or you want to call back, or
We gotta go to
we
break.
got to go to break?
I can hang on.
All right.
Okay. We're live and local, Real Talk on Freedom 97.1, 1120 a.m. WSME. It's our final break of the morning. All right, and we are back, and we still have a caller holding.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back, ladies.
Yeah.
Well, you welcome back.
Well, I just wanted to share that, if you study Chinese history, China was a Republic of China. General Chiang Kai-shek, and he was in charge of mainland China or whatever. And then Mao Zedong led a communist revolution in China, and they pushed the Nationalist Army, or the Republic of Chinese Army, all the way south until they fled to Taiwan. They were kind of banished there in Taiwan, and they took residence there, and then they formed their own country, independent country of the Republic of China. And it's a sovereign country, and that's what I don't understand. What that caller said, that we just ought to give back China, or excuse me, Taiwan, back to the Chinese because it belongs to them already. And I'm scratching my head. I don't understand that logic. Again, we have a military agreement with Taiwan, economic agreement with Taiwan. It's a country that is growing. That they fought for their independence, and unfortunately, they had to flee to Taiwan. And it's just like South Korea. South Koreans, with the assistance of the United States, obviously, defended their freedoms to be a democratic country. And then North Korea came under the umbrella of the Soviet Union and the communist part of China. And to say let's just give Taiwan back, it's the same logic as saying let's give South Korea back to the North Koreans and the Chinese. For that matter, we can continue on and on with this. And it just, to me, it was a ridiculous statement. And again, I'll take heed with what my uncle told me, many, many, many years ago. Having lived through the Korean War, my mother was 12 during the Korean War, and my uncle was considerably older. He was shipped to Japan and forced to go to Japanese schools for several years during the war, and then he was repatriated when the war ended. With that kind of thinking, just for us to turn around and say, "Here's Taiwan, it belongs to you, China. Take it. It's yours." That's going to show weakness on our part as well, and that's what I didn't understand. It was like a dichotomy. It was like he was talking, saying that our military is strong, but yet let's want to give China away, which is going to show that we're weak. So I had to say that because it really did bother me when he said that. I just could not believe I heard those comments.
Well, I appreciate that, and and you sharing them. So
Yeah, you're such a
Yeah.
history buff, and you understand all that far more than I could ever. But I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing too. I'm a veteran. Okay, I spent. I'm a dependent child. My dad was in the Air Force and the Army. Okay, I spent most of my life overseas and in Florida, and then I went in the military, and then I went with NCIS. We have a great, strong military. There is no doubt about it. But we also need to be smart. We need to be aware of what's going on, and we need to focus in on the threat that's out there, which is communist China. And that Rear Admiral who made that study, he was spot on with everything that he said about the infrastructure of China, their plan, their long-term planning. He was spot on, and this is a man that's in the military working, in strategic command. That's their job, to analyze all this information, and not to turn a blind eye or deaf ear on the greatest threat that we face right now, which is communist China.
Well, I agree. And it is actually time to go. So I appreciate you calling in today.
No worries, girls.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you for letting me say
Yep.
speak my mind.
Thanks,
All right,
Robin.
bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of our show. It's been a good show today.
Yeah, it's been a great show.
It
Yeah.
should be a
really
sunny,
enjoyed-
chilly, blustery day.
I
But,
really
yeah.
enjoyed
Yeah.
listening to Marcy, and
Mhm.
I enjoyed listening to you,
Mhm.
and discussing mental health and what we need to do to help each other. It has just calmed me.
Good.
It's better than yoga.
Hey, it's a good thing. Yeah. You won't hurt yourself with all the poses.
Yeah,
I
that's
tried
right.
that recently. Oh my goodness. I'm glad nobody saw
I'll
it. It
tell
was
you,
a
it's
hot
not
mess.
as easy
It
as
is
you
hard.
think it
I
is.
give props to these yoga
Those
instructors.
when
Yeah.
they say hold that position for 60 seconds, that seems like a week.
I can't hold it for 2 seconds.
About
but
40
I gotta get
seconds
better
into
at
it, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Stop.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 7:00. And thanks for joining us and listening in and letting us ramble and talk. And we appreciate all of you. Everyone have a wonderful day. We will see you in the morning. Be safe, and we'll see you later.